Hi, welcome to Rave Sensation. I'm your host, Dan, and this is going to be another episode of what I'm calling unboxing videos. Unlike most unboxing videos, I'm not buying something new and unwrapping a package that I got in the mail. I'm looking through boxes that I'm pulling from storage. The boxes loosely had themes to them, although not always. And I'm not going to do the whole boxes. Those I tried to do that. The videos turned out a little too long, so I'm just taking a couple things at a time. But I haven't really looked through these things, many of them for years. So hopefully this is going to be fun for you. I think I'm going to be fun having firing the old synapses with memories. So this one is going to be music based. So here we go. Then we've got here, let me. This was in there. And of course, Living Blues. I used to buy every issue of Living Blues. A great magazine. I did not keep most of my issues. In one big purge, I got rid of a bunch of them. I gave them to a place that I thought might be able to sell them. And I found out later that they couldn't, and they just threw them away, which is, because there's a lot of great articles in these old issues. I wish I had been able to keep hold of them. I can't keep hold of the stuff I got now. That's why I'm looking through everything. But I really regret that. I was hoping they would go to a new nice home, but I didn't have time to try and sell them myself. But I kept this issue because Dolomite, Rudy Ray Moore, big article on him in here. And, I discovered I discovered Rudy through the videotapes of Dolomite. And of course, he had a couple of really fun early R&B hits, and so this was a great little article here. Of course, now there's a great biography, which if I had been thinking about it, I would have gone and grabbed that off the shelf and shown you. I'll show you that in another video. There was a great book put out on Rudy that's just incredibly well researched by a guy who got to know Rudy really well. But anyway, that's why I kept this one. Great article on Rudy in there. I don't know if this became a collector's item or not. Living Blues used to be one of those things you could find for practically nothing. This might be different. In this box also was two early music books I have. Nick Tosh's book here, The Unsung Heroes of Rock and Roll. You can see I've read this pretty well. And he's covering a lot of the early R&B artists, and Winona Harris. If you were, he's just great stuff here. Ellie Mae Morris. These names probably aren't going to mean much to you, so I won't go into it too much. But if you're interested in early art, there's Louis Prima. If you're interested in early the roots of rock and roll, the music that was right before rock and roll, or running alongside it for a little while before rock and roll actually took over everything, this is the place to go. This is a great book. Now, I will say he never met a wild and woolly story that he didn't love. And I'm not quite sure how many of these really outrageous anecdotes might not be a folk legend, but it's a great book. It talks about a lot of great artists. If he bothered to put them in here, you can be dang sure they're worth looking up and listening to their music. Fantastic. Peter Gerlach, he's still writing books. He just had a book. I think he's semi-retired now. He just had a book though come out like 2 years ago, and he's just written a lot of great books. I'll do a separate video on that at some point, because I feel like I should grab all his stuff and really go through it for you. But here's how you spell his name, Peter Gerlach. these were some of the earliest, best writings about, I guess, what you would call roots artists, these early blues guys and stuff. They just, the way he writes just feels different than most of the stuff I was reading at the time. And it really really helped you make a connection to what these guys were singing about. I'm not somebody who believes you need to read about an artist's life to enjoy their work, or, I don't know how necessary it is, but in this case, I really enjoyed it. I really think he does a fantastic job. And anyway, you should check out his books. That book and the other two that are kind of like his original 3 biggies have been reissued, I don't know, 4 times now, with different covers and different formats and updating. He does a bibliography in the back of these of things you should check out, which records. And as things were being reissued or new things were discovered, he would change these. He would change the bibliographies. So, it might be best if you get the newest one. Although, again, you're probably listening to Spotify and not digging around for old vinyl. But if you are, it's a great place. And like I said, he writes in a very humanizing way about these figures. This is Blue Suede News. I think Blue Suede News has kind of stopped publishing now during the pandemic. It was a great fanzine, and it has articles about the old timers that were good. The main thing I would do is it covered people it covered a lot of modern people, and the reviews were great. I would read it. I would read a review in the back about somebody nowadays who was trying to recapture some of the spirit, if not exactly the sound, of the old records. And I really appreciate that. And so this was a great place to find new artists. And there's a page of people, 20th Annual Rockabilly Ball. And so they have some nice little color project there. Jesse Lee Miller. And here's pictures from rocking the West Coast. Legendary Blues Cruise. Nice book reviews of things that were interesting. I won't go into that too much. Now, I will say that one time when I was on the phone ordering, I talked to Gabby, the fellow who edited this stuff, and while he was talking to me about, I was ordering this back issue because I had missed this one. While I was talking to him, I think he drew this on the cover of this magazine while we were talking on the phone. I don't know if I said something to offend him, or if he just did it haphazardly, or if he thought, hey, this guy will think this is really funny. But Marcia Ball, he drew a goatee and a mustache on her. Sent it to me. That was kind of weird. Again, reviews, all kinds of stuff. I don't know how easy these would be to find. He might still be selling them on his website. Blue Suede News. Now, the last thing I'll talk about is Kicks Magazine. A really important magazine to me. Just a fantastic place. This is where you learn about, they do cover some people like Link Wray and people who are, there's going to be an article in here on the Beach Boys, but it's really about all that lost kind of early rock and roll 45s. It's like undiscovered, wild, crazier than you could imagine rock and roll, early rock and roll. And it was put out by Billy Miller and his wife Miriam Lina. And Billy unfortunately passed away. I went to their home several times. They used to be so open to just having people come and talk. Yeah, I was there to buy stuff, but they didn't have to spend the time they did with me. Billy was really nice. At one point, he was talking about a rare 45, but it's one that had been reissued on a comp. He was trying to sell me this repro. I said, "Oh, I've got that song," and I think he thought I meant I had the 45, and so he got a little eerily cold for just a little bit, and I didn't realize why. It was only later that I realized, oh, maybe he thinks I have the 45, or I was claiming I had this 45, which I didn't. I just meant I had that song, and so I didn't need it on 45. There, I got my... and so, but then, a few minutes later, everything was cool. Miriam is still doing some stuff for the Norton label. Their label is the Norton Records. Please check out their website. It's fantastic. Miriam is saying that she's going to put out one final issue of Kicks, and I don't know how they'll capture the magic of these early issues. There's the Phantom, famous for Love Me. Just these early photo reproductions are leave a little bit to be desired, but all kinds of 50s and 60s culture stuff is covered in here. I will say that if you buy them, you might get a little, occasionally they're a little bit offensive with how rude they are about musicians who aren't part of this whole thing. I mean, there were times when I'd be like, "Oh, why are you saying this about it? Why do you care about? You don't like this artist? Fine." But as though the running down current artists was going to make people rediscover these old ones. I think, I have a much more open mind about music. So you might get a little bit of a shock if you read a little bit of this, but it's not enough to drag down the great material. I mean, look at this issue, the Bobby Fuller story. Now, Miriam has since written an entire book on Bobby Fuller, who was died really young under mysterious circumstances. But this is the first place I really read about that. This is a great article. And here, Ronnie Dawson, who many years after everyone else had become a golden oldie who was croaking out their hits poorly, Ronnie was out there doing fantastic shows, so good. Arch Hall Jr., who's of course famous for being in some not great movies, Sonny Burgess from Sun Records. I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff in here. This is a great magazine for people who are into 50s and 60s. Look at Ronnie Dawson. Look what a cutie pie he was. And here you can see all the things I marked up for me to buy, for me to mail order. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here. I didn't get all of it. I never had the money to get all of it. But there's Arch Hall Jr. So these magazines are really, really worth getting. Just don't be too thin-skinned when you're going through these. And I'm going to mention this. When Billy Miller passed, he was working on this book with Michael Hurt called Mind Over Matter, The Myths and Mysteries of Detroit's Fortune Records. Now, unless you're really into this kind of music, you won't even know who Fortune Records is. But this is one of those books that is just so well researched and has so much history of labels and a time period and the place that it all happens, that I think most people would still love this stuff. Just the amount of research they did. This is a real testament to Fortune Records, but also the memory of Billy Miller, who unfortunately passed away before it was finished. Michael and Miriam made sure it came out it's huge. It's huge, and it's a beautiful, beautiful book. Just look. I mean, it's just so good. Just wonderful, full of wonderful stories about these artists and about the struggles these small labels had and these small bands had touring at the time. Just fantastic. I can't recommend it enough. It's not for everybody. It's not for most people. But, if it sounds interesting to you at all, please visit the Norton website and check it out. And check out some of the records. And be on the lookout. I think they might still have copies of old issues of Kix around. If not, you might still find them out in the wild. And definitely look for the new issue, which really I hope that happens soon. They've been teasing it for a while now. Anyway, that's all